We all worried about Jenny's visa, but we thought marriage would make her safe. We were wrong. A deep dive into Indian immigration law reveals a shocking clause Sumit's family is allegedly exploiting to have her forcibly removed from the country, and there's nothing Sumit can do to stop it. Hidden in the fine print of Indian law is a weapon, and Sumit's family is about to use it against Jenny. This isn't just family drama anymore. This is a calculated legal assault designed to erase her from their lives and their country, forever. We're about to uncover a conspiracy so cold and methodical, it will change how you see this entire story. This is the dark truth they never wanted you to see. If you're ready to go down this rabbit hole and see the 90-Day Fiance universe in a way you never have before, do me a favor right now. Hit that like button to signal to the algorithm that we're digging for the truth, and subscribe with the notification bell on. You will not want to miss the updates on this story because things are about to get truly insane. Let's begin with the fairy tale, because every great tragedy starts with a moment of hope. For years, for what felt like an eternity to viewers, and certainly to Jenny Slatin, one single shimmering goal hung on the horizon: marriage. It was the panacea, the magical solution to every problem that plagued her and Sumit Singh. It wasn't just about love or commitment or even social acceptance. For Jenny, marriage was survival. It was the key to staying in the country she had adopted as her home, with the man she had sacrificed everything for. Her visa situation was a constant, ticking clock, a source of unending anxiety that permeated every scene, every conversation. We watched her scramble for extensions, explore religious loopholes, and face the crushing reality that her time in India was always on the verge of expiring. The tourist visa was a temporary pass, a visitor's badge in a life she desperately wanted to make permanent. Then, after a decade of struggle, after lies, betrayals, a secret first marriage, and the relentless, soul-crushing disapproval of Sumit's parents, Sadhna and Anil, it finally happened. They got married. The ceremony itself was simple, almost clandestine, a quiet act of defiance in an Arya Samaj temple. But the implications were monumental. We saw the photos, the radiant smiles on their faces. Sumit finally choosing his love for Jenny over the demands of his family. Jenny, her face a portrait of pure, unadulterated relief, the weight of 1,000 worries lifting from her shoulders. This was it. This was the happiest ever after. The marriage certificate wasn't just a piece of paper, it was her shield. It was the legal document that transformed her from a perennial tourist into the spouse of an Indian citizen. With that signature, she believed she had secured her place. The spousal visa, or as it's often called, the X visa, was supposed to be the final, unbreakable link in the chain binding her to India. We all breathed that same sigh of relief with her. We thought, finally, the game is over. The family has lost. Sadhna and Anil could scream, they could cry, they could disown Sumit, but they could not touch Jenny. She was now legally entwined with their son, a permanent fixture in his life, protected by the laws of the very country they lived in. The marriage, we believed, had rendered them powerless. They could withhold their blessing, but they could no longer wield the threat of deportation. Jenny was safe. She had won. That illusion of security was so potent, so desperately wanted, that we all bought into it. We celebrated their small victories, their quiet moments of domestic bliss in their new life as husband and wife. It felt like the end of a long, arduous story, but what we were watching wasn't the end. It was merely the end of a chapter. And the next chapter, the one unfolding in the shadows, was a horror story crafted by a mastermind who had simply been waiting, watching, and planning her next, far more devastating attack. We celebrated a battle victory, completely oblivious to the fact that the war was about to escalate in a way no one could have ever predicted. The marriage wasn't Jenny's shield, it was her trap. And it had just been sprung. The attack, when it came, wasn't loud or explosive. It wasn't a screaming match in the living room or a dramatic confrontation for the TLC cameras. No, this was something far more insidious. It was quiet, bureaucratic, and utterly terrifying. According to insider reports and analysis from legal experts specializing in the labyrinthine world of Indian immigration, Sumit's family has initiated a formal challenge to the validity of Jenny and Sumit's marriage, not in a family court, but with the Foreigners Regional Registration Office, or FRRO, the very government body that controls Jenny's right to exist in India. They have allegedly filed a complaint, a meticulously crafted document designed to trigger a review and potential revocation of Jenny's spousal visa. The legal grounds they are using are breathtaking in their cruelty and their cunning. They are not merely stating they disapprove of the marriage. They are claiming the marriage itself is a sham, a product of fraud and coercion. The specific clauses they are reportedly invoking are buried deep within the Foreigners Act of 1946 and its subsequent amendments, provisions that are rarely used and almost never in such a public fashion. The complaint is said to center on two devastating accusations. First, fraudulent marriage for the purpose of coercing a citizen. This legal argument posits that Jenny, the foreign national, did not enter into the marriage for love, but as a calculated scheme to secure permanent residency in India. They are painting her decade-long pursuit of Sumit not as a love story, but as a long con. The second, and perhaps more potent accusation, is undue influence due to age and financial disparity. This is where the family's strategy becomes truly diabolical. They are weaponizing the very narrative of their relationship that has played out on our screens for years. They are arguing that Jenny, as the significantly older partner who, at times, was the primary financial support, exerted an unhealthy and manipulative influence over a younger, more impressionable Sumit. They are framing him not as a willing partner, but as a victim. A man so psychologically dominated by an older foreign woman that he was incapable of making a rational, uncoerced decision to marry. He wasn't choosing a wife, their complaint allegedly argues. He was succumbing to years of relentless pressure. And what evidence are they using to support these explosive claims? What proof could they possibly have to suggest Sumit was a hostage in his own relationship? Their evidence is the show itself. In a move of staggering, weaponized irony, Sadhna and Anil are allegedly using the vast library of TLC footage as their primary source of proof. Every tear Jenny shed, every argument, every moment of conflict is being recontextualized and submitted as a legal exhibit. They are turning their own reality television fame against the person they despise. Think about the sheer volume of material they have to draw from. Imagine a lawyer, hired by the family, sitting in a dark room, cataloging years of footage, not for entertainment, but for ammunition. Let's break down what this evidence portfolio would look like. Exhibit A, Jenny's emotional outbursts. Remember all the times we saw Jenny crying, pleading with Sumit, expressing her fear and desperation about her visa status? To us, it was the raw emotion of a woman in a difficult situation. In the family's legal complaint, this is presented as calculated emotional manipulation. Each tear is a tool of coercion. Her anxiety about being deported isn't seen as a legitimate fear, but as a threat she used to guilt Sumit into marriage. "Marry me, or I'll be forced to leave," is twisted into a form of emotional blackmail. The scene where she threw a chair in a fit of frustration, that's not a moment of human anger. It's Exhibit B, proof of an unstable and aggressive temperament demonstrating a pattern of intimidation. Exhibit C, the financial disparity. They will meticulously document every instance where Jenny's Social Security income was mentioned, where she paid for rent, for groceries, for their life together. A neutral observer might see this as a partnership, two people pooling their resources. The family's legal team, however, paints a picture of a sugar mama scenario, creating a financial dependency that made it impossible for Sumit to leave. They will argue that he was trapped, not just by emotion, but by economics. He couldn't defy her, the argument goes, because he was reliant on her for his very lifestyle, a lifestyle that was a significant step up from what he might have had on his own. This financial control, they claim, is a classic hallmark of undue influence. Exhibit D, Sumit's own behavior. This is perhaps the most tragic and brilliant part of their alleged strategy. They are using Sumit's own weakness and indecisiveness against him. Every time Sumit looked conflicted, every time he hesitated to stand up to his parents, every pained expression on his face when caught between the two warring sides, it's all being framed as the silent plea of a man trapped in a situation he doesn't want to be in. His reluctance to marry for so many years isn't seen as a man struggling with a difficult family dynamic, but as his true feelings shining through. His passivity is being presented as proof of his subjugation. The family will claim they weren't just opposing the marriage, they were trying to rescue their son. They will use clips of him admitting he was scared, that he didn't want to choose, as testimony from the victim himself. This legal attack transforms the entire narrative. The story is no longer about a mother who disapproves of her son's choice. It is now about a family fighting to annul a predatory marriage and save their son from a foreign interloper who used his kindness and her money to entrap him. And the most chilling part is that by using the show's footage, they are presenting a version of events that is, on the surface, backed by hours and hours of video evidence. They are taking the reality that we consumed as entertainment and twisting it into a legal document designed to destroy a woman's life. Now, let's address the question that is likely screaming in your mind. Why can't Sumit just stop this? Why can't he just march into the FRO office or file a counter affidavit and declare that he loves his wife, he married her willingly, and his parents are lying? The answer to that question reveals the true, horrifying genius of his family's plan. Sumit is completely and utterly powerless, caught in a legal and cultural checkmate from which there is no escape. The system, and his family's manipulation of it, has been designed to neutralize him entirely. To understand his paralysis, you have to understand the profound cultural context of family in India, particularly in a legal setting. In the West, it's common, almost expected, for an adult to side with their spouse against their parents. In many parts of India, formally and legally opposing your parents is an act of unimaginable gravity. It is not just a disagreement, it is a fundamental severing of familial and societal ties. It's a public declaration of dishonor. Sadhna and Anil have not filed a complaint with Sumit. They have filed a complaint on his behalf. They are legally positioning themselves as his protectors, his advocates, acting in the best interest of their allegedly coerced son. The complaint isn't from angry parents. It's from the concerned family of a victimized Indian citizen. This puts Sumit in an impossible bind. He is now faced with two choices, each one leading to a different kind of personal apocalypse. Option 1. He defends Jenny. He hires a lawyer, submits a formal notarized statement to the immigration board declaring that his parents are liars, that their claims are baseless, and that his marriage is legitimate and consensual. In doing so, he would be legally branding his own mother and father as perjurers in a government proceeding. This would be the final, irrevocable act of disownment. It would be a bridge burned with a nuclear bomb. He would not just be estranged, he would be an enemy of his own family in a public and permanent way. The social and emotional fallout from this would be catastrophic. He would be an outcast. In the eyes of his community, he would be the son who legally tried to shame his parents to protect a foreign woman. The weight of that decision in his culture is something most Westerners cannot even fathom. It is a spiritual and social suicide. Option 2, he does nothing. He remains silent. He tries to write it out, hoping it will all go away. He might privately reassure Jenny, telling her he loves her, but he refuses to formally and legally contradict his parents. In this scenario, his silence becomes his consent. To the immigration board reviewing the case, the evidence file will be damning. They will have a formal complaint from the citizen's immediate family, complete with hours of video evidence showing conflict and a seemingly reluctant groom. And on the other side, nothing. No formal rebuttal from the Indian citizen himself. The absence of his testimony in defense of his wife would be interpreted as the most powerful evidence of all. It would suggest that he is either too afraid to speak or that he implicitly agrees with his parents' assessment. His silence would be the nail in Jenny's coffin. The board, tasked with protecting its citizens, would likely conclude that where there is this much smoke, there must be fire. They would err on the side of caution, rule in favor of the Indian family, and revoke the spousal visa. Jenny would be deported. This is the checkmate. Sadhna has created a situation where her son's every possible move results in a win for her. If he fights her, he destroys himself and his connection to his family forever, a victory of a different kind for her, the final proof that Jenny has corrupted him entirely. If he stays silent, he sacrifices his wife. There is no third option. There is no path where he gets to keep both his family and his wife. He is a pawn in a game he cannot win, and the board is set up so that no matter which way he moves, Jenny is the piece that gets taken. The powerless husband is not just a trope. It is the central mechanism of this entire legal attack. His love for Jenny is irrelevant. His intentions are irrelevant. The only thing that matters is whether he is willing to publicly and legally destroy his parents to save her. And judging by a decade of his behavior, a decade of him failing to choose, of him trying to appease both sides, the odds of him taking such a drastic final step are terrifyingly slim. Sadhna knows her son better than anyone, and she has built her entire strategy around his fundamental weakness. What we are witnessing is not a simple case of a meddling mother-in-law. This is something far beyond the petty squabbles and emotional dramas we are used to on 90 Day Fiance. This is a masterstroke of cold, calculated, strategic warfare. This is Sadhna's evolution from a tearful, disapproving mother into a legal tactician. For years, she tried to break them up using emotional tools: guilt, tears, threats of disownment, social pressure, even moving into their home to teach Jenny how to be a good Indian wife. Every attempt failed. Jenny, despite her own emotional moments, proved to be resilient. Sumit, despite his weakness, always eventually crawled back to Jenny. The emotional bond between them, however dysfunctional it sometimes appeared, was unbreakable. And that's when Sadhna, or someone advising her, had a chilling epiphany. If you cannot break the emotional bond, then sever the physical one. If you cannot convince your son to leave her, then make it so she is not allowed to be near him. She realized that the battle for Sumit's heart was a losing one. So she changed the battlefield. She moved the fight from the living room to the courtroom, or in this case, the bureaucratic office of the FRRO. She is no longer trying to win an argument, she is trying to win a case. She has traded emotional appeals for legal affidavits. This is a profound and terrifying shift in tactics. It's a move that elevates her from a reality TV antagonist to a truly formidable adversary. Think of the mindset required to do this. It requires a level of detachment and ruthlessness that is genuinely shocking. It means seeing your son's marriage not as a personal relationship, but as a legal contract with loopholes to be exploited. It means seeing the woman your son loves not as a person, but as a foreign national whose presence is subject to revocation. It means weaponizing your country's laws against a guest in your country. Sadhna has realized that her feelings of disapproval are, in the eyes of the law, irrelevant. But if she can frame those feelings within a legal context, coercion, fraud, undue influence, then the law becomes her weapon. The Indian government becomes her unwitting accomplice. This is not a plan born of a sudden outburst of anger. This is a strategy that has likely been in development for some time, a plan B that was put into motion the moment she heard the news of their secret marriage. While Jenny and Sumit were celebrating their new life, Sadhna and Anil were likely consulting with lawyers, gathering their evidence, and preparing their attack. They were studying the fine print while Jenny was looking at wedding photos. This is a game of chess, and Sadhna has been thinking several moves ahead. She allowed them to have their moment of happiness, their illusion of security, knowing that it would make the eventual fall that much harder. She let them believe they had won, all the while preparing the legal machinery that would tear their world apart. It is brilliant in its execution. It is evil in its intent. She has managed to turn her greatest weakness, her inability to emotionally separate them, into her greatest strength. By failing to break them up through personal means, she has justified in her own mind the use of impersonal legal force. She can now tell herself and her community that she is not just a scorned mother. She is a law-abiding citizen using the system to protect her son from a fraudulent marriage. She has wrapped her personal vendetta in the flag of national law and parental concern. This move is designed to physically remove her rival from the board, not just from her house, not just from her family, but from the entire subcontinent of India. It's a level of strategic cruelty that we have never seen before in this franchise. She isn't just trying to end a marriage, she's trying to deport a memory. The filing of this complaint with the Immigration Board initiates a process that is, by its very nature, a ticking clock. This is not a quick or simple matter. An investigation into the legitimacy of a marriage, especially one involving a foreign national, can be a lengthy and arduous affair. But the moment that file was opened, the clock started ticking on Jenny's life in India. Every day that passes is a day closer to a potential ruling. Every sunrise could be one of her last in the home she has built with Sumit. She is now living on borrowed time, her fate in the hands of faceless bureaucrats who are sifting through a mountain of evidence curated by her mortal enemies. Imagine the psychological torment of this situation. Jenny is no longer just fighting with her mother-in-law. She is under investigation by the government of the country she calls home. Every interaction, every purchase, every trip outside her house could be scrutinized. Is she a legitimate spouse or a foreign agent of influence who perpetrated a marriage fraud? This is the question that now hangs over her head. The FRRO will likely conduct interviews. They may call in Sumit for questioning. They may even call in Sadhna and Anil to provide their testimony. They will review the TLC footage submitted as evidence. Jenny and Sumit's life is no longer their own. It is a case file, an active investigation. The process itself is designed to wear you down. There will be letters in official envelopes, requests for documents, and the constant looming threat of a final negative decision. This isn't a fight that can be won with love or perseverance. It's a battle that must be fought with lawyers, paperwork, and irrefutable proof, all while the other side is using your most vulnerable moments against you. The very foundation of her life in India, her marriage, is now being presented as a crime. The relief and security she felt after her wedding have evaporated, replaced by a constant gnawing fear. And make no mistake, the family's goal here is not to win an argument, it's not to get an apology or to be proven right. Their goal is absolute removal. They are not trying to get Sumit to see their point of view. They are trying to erase Jenny from their country. If the FRRO rules in their favor, the consequences are swift and brutal. Jenny's spousal visa would be immediately revoked. She would likely be given a very short window of time, perhaps as little as 15 to 30 days, to leave the country voluntarily. If she fails to comply, she would be subject to forced deportation and potentially blacklisted from ever re-entering India again. This is not a negotiation. It is a legal execution of her life in India. This is the endgame Sadhna has been working towards. A clean slate, Jenny gone. Sumit heartbroken, but back under their roof, under their control. In their minds, he would eventually get over it. He would be free of the undue influence and could be remade into the son they want him to be, ready for a proper arranged marriage. They aren't just trying to break up a relationship. They are trying to reset their son's life, and to do that, the mistake that is Jenny must be completely and utterly expunged. The ticking clock isn't just about a visa, it's a countdown to the potential end of Sumit and Jenny's story, a story that would conclude with one of them on a plane, watching the country that held their entire life disappear beneath the clouds, forever. The family isn't just trying to win, they're trying to annihilate. Let's peel back another layer of this nightmare, because the legal attack is only the visible part of the iceberg. The true devastation is happening right now, inside the four walls of their home. The foundation of trust and love that they spent a decade building is being systematically demolished, not by an external force, but by a poison that has been injected directly into their relationship. That poison is doubt. The happy wedding photos we looked at earlier, they are no longer symbols of victory. They are artifacts from a bygone era of peace. They are a constant, cruel reminder of the security Jenny thought she had, a security that was revealed to be a fragile illusion. Every day the pressure mounts. This isn't a future threat. It is a present-day psychological siege. Imagine being Jenny. You wake up every morning not knowing if this is the day you'll get the notice. You look at the man you married, the man you sacrificed everything for, and you have to wonder, when the time comes, will he fight for you? Will he make the choice he's failed to make for 10 years? You watch him talk on the phone, and a sliver of paranoia creeps in. Is he talking to his brother, or is he talking to his parents? Is he negotiating a peace, or is he negotiating your surrender? You see him looking stressed and withdrawn, and you don't know if he's worried about you, or if he's starting to buckle under the weight of his family's pressure. The complaint filed by his family is designed to make her see him as they see him, weak, impressionable, and ultimately their son before he is her husband. It forces her to question the very bedrock of their union. Was his love strong enough to withstand this? Or was it, as his parents claim, a temporary infatuation that will shatter under true legal and familial duress? Now, imagine being Sumit. You are living in a psychological torture chamber of your own design. On one side, you have the woman you love, whose entire future rests in your hands. Her eyes follow you, filled with a mixture of love, hope, and raw, naked fear. She needs you to be her hero, her protector, the man who will finally, unequivocally, stand up and choose her. On the other side, you have the crushing, suffocating weight of your entire history, your culture, your family. The calls from your mother are no longer just emotional pleas. They are reminders of the legal document bearing her name, a document that accuses your wife of being a criminal predator. Your father, the voice of reason you always sought, is now a co-signer on your wife's effective death warrant. They frame their actions as an act of love for you, a rescue mission. We are doing this for your own good, Sumit. We are saving you from your mistake. Every conversation is a guilt trip. Every memory of your childhood a weapon to remind you of your duty as a son. How does this play out in their daily life? The small arguments become massive fights. A disagreement over what to have for dinner is no longer just about food. It's about the immense, unspoken stress that saturates the air. Jenny's anxiety might make her seem needy or accusatory. Sumit's paralysis and fear might make him seem distant and uncaring. He might try to avoid the topic, to pretend things are normal, which to Jenny would feel like the ultimate betrayal. Why aren't you doing anything? Why aren't we fighting this? She might plead, and he, trapped with no good answer, might lash out in frustration. What do you want me to do, Jenny? Legally disown my own mother and father? The very words, spoken aloud in their home, give power to the impossible choice Sadhna has forced upon him. The legal complaint is a third person in their marriage. It sits between them at the dinner table. It lies between them in bed at night. It is a silent, malevolent presence designed to slowly, methodically pry them apart from the inside out, ensuring that even if they somehow win the legal battle, the emotional wreckage left behind might be too great to ever truly recover from. The family isn't just trying to get Jenny deported, they're salting the earth of the relationship itself, making sure nothing can ever grow there again. Now, we have to ask a very uncomfortable question. In this high-stakes conspiracy, who are the other players? Is it just Jenny versus Sadhna? No. There is another entity in this equation, a powerful, silent partner whose influence is everywhere. The production company, TLC and Sharp Entertainment. We, the viewers, are conditioned to see them as neutral observers, documentary filmmakers simply capturing reality as it unfolds. But in this scenario, we must re-examine that assumption. It is my theory that the production company is not just a passive observer. They are an active and perhaps unwitting catalyst in this entire legal disaster. Their very presence, their methods, and their contractual obligations have created the perfect storm for Sadhna's plan to succeed. First, consider the evidence. As we've established, the family's entire legal case is allegedly built upon footage from the show. This means that the product that TLC and Sharp create for our entertainment has become a legal weapon. Every producer who ever pushed Jenny for a more emotional soundbite, every cameraman who zoomed in on Sumit's conflicted face, every editor who cut a scene for maximum dramatic impact, they were all unknowingly contributing to the legal dossier that is now being used to deport one of their own cast members. The showrunners wanted drama, and they got it. They got tears, they got fights, they got a decade of will they or won't they? But in their pursuit of ratings, they were also creating a permanent public record of dysfunction that could be twisted and used in a court of law, or in this case, a court of immigration. The quest for good TV has provided the ammunition for a real-life tragedy. But it goes deeper than that. Let's talk about the contracts. Reality TV contracts are notoriously restrictive. Cast members are often bound by non-disclosure agreements and clauses that give the network significant control over their lives and narratives. While Jenny and Sumit are facing a genuine, life-altering legal crisis, they are still under contract. This means they likely cannot seek independent, private legal advice without consulting the network. They can't issue public statements or start a GoFundMe for legal fees without network approval. They are, in a very real sense, trapped inside the reality show bubble while a real-world fire is raging outside. Think about it. The most logical first step for anyone in Jenny's position would be to immediately hire the best immigration lawyer in India, go on complete media lockdown, and build a private, confidential legal defense. But can she do that? Can she have privileged conversations with an attorney when there's a camera crew in her living room and a sound guy clipping a microphone to her shirt? Can she strategize a defense when her every move, her every word is being filmed for a future episode of The Other Way? It's a conflict of interest of staggering proportions. The show's need for content is in direct opposition to her need for legal privacy. The very act of filming her journey as she fights this deportation battle could be providing more evidence for the other side. A tearful confession to the camera about her fears could be clipped and used as proof of her manipulative nature. An angry outburst at Sumit could be used as proof of her coercive control. She is a defendant whose trial is being televised before it even begins, and the prosecution is taking notes. Furthermore, is the network providing them with adequate legal support? It's highly unlikely. Networks typically provide counsel for issues related to the production itself, not for pre-existing or external legal battles of this magnitude. They are in the business of entertainment, not immigration law. So Jenny and Sumit are left in an unthinkable position. They are globally famous, but potentially legally isolated. Their fame is the source of their problem, and it is also the cage that prevents them from effectively solving it. Sadhna's plan is not just brilliant because it uses the show's footage. It's brilliant because it leverages the entire reality TV apparatus against Jenny. She knows they are on a leash. She knows their lives are not entirely their own. She is exploiting the gilded cage of reality television, knowing that the bars of that cage might just be strong enough to hold Jenny in place until the deportation order is signed. The network, in its quest to document a love story, may have inadvertently become an accomplice to its destruction. To truly grasp the genius and the horror of Sadhna's strategy, we need to go deeper into the cultural soil of India, into the very concepts that give her complaint its terrifying power. This isn't just a legal document, it's a cultural weapon, loaded with centuries of tradition and social expectation. The power of her complaint lies in its ability to speak the language of the Indian bureaucracy, a language that intrinsically favors the family unit over the individual and the citizen over the foreigner. What Sadhna is leveraging is a concept known as izzat, which translates roughly to honor, respect, or prestige. In many parts of Indian society, the izzat of the family is paramount. It is a collective commodity that must be protected at all costs. An individual's actions, especially a son's marriage, are not just personal choices. They reflect directly upon the honor of the entire family. When Sadhna and Anil walk into that FRO office, they are not just two individuals. They are representing the Singh family, a respected unit of Indian society. Their complaint is not just a personal grievance, it is a declaration that this marriage has brought shame and dishonor upon their house. They are arguing that their son, through the undue influence of a foreign woman, has been led to make a decision that damages the family's izzat. And in a system that is built upon the foundation of preserving social order, an appeal to protect a family's honor is incredibly potent. They are framing Jenny not just as an unsuitable wife, but as a corrosive agent from the outside world, a threat to the integrity of a traditional Indian family. The FRRO official reviewing this case is not just a bureaucrat, they are a product of this same culture. They understand the unspoken weight of these accusations. They are reading a file that says a son has defied his parents, married a woman twice his age from a different culture, and brought distress to his elders. Juxtaposed against this is Jenny, the foreign national. In the eyes of the system, she is an outsider, a guest. Her rights are conditional. The system is inherently designed to protect its own citizens first. So when a citizen's family formally alleges that their son is being harmed or coerced by a foreigner, the default position of the bureaucracy is to take that claim with extreme seriousness. It becomes a matter of national interest. Are our citizens being preyed upon by foreigners using marriage as a means to an end? Sadhna has masterfully framed this as a case of a vulnerable Indian man being manipulated by a calculating Western woman. She's playing on deep-seated cultural narratives and perhaps even a touch of post-colonial suspicion. She is portraying Sumit as the victim and herself as the selfless mother fighting to protect him. This narrative aligns perfectly with the cultural instinct to preserve the family structure. The age gap, the financial disparity, the cultural differences, these are not just details. In Sadhna's hands, they become powerful symbols of abnormality, evidence that this union is unnatural, and therefore likely fraudulent. She is arguing that no sane, uncoerced Indian man would willingly enter into such a marriage against the express wishes of his parents. The only logical explanation, therefore, is that he was not in his right mind, that he was under some form of control. This argument, which might seem outrageous in a Western context, carries significant weight in a culture where familial approval is often seen as a prerequisite for a legitimate marriage. Sadhna is not just using the law, she is using the cultural source code of her society to turn the system against her enemy. And it's a code that Jenny, as an outsider, will never be able to fully understand or counteract. And let us not forget a crucial piece of the puzzle, a ghost from the past that Sadhna is undoubtedly resurrecting to bolster her case: Sumit's first marriage. The secret arranged marriage that he hid from Jenny for years was the original sin of this entire saga. At the time, we saw it as a story of Sumit's deceit and his family's overbearing control, but now, in the context of this new legal battle, that history can be twisted into a powerful weapon for the family. They are not just presenting a theory about Sumit's susceptibility, they are presenting a history of it. Their argument to the immigration board would be chillingly consistent. Imagine Sadhna's testimony. This is not the first time our son has been a victim of a coercive marriage. We have seen this before. The first time we admit, we pressured him into an arranged marriage. He was young, he was dutiful, and he did what we asked of him, even though his heart wasn't in it. He suffered in silence for years in that loveless union. It was a mistake, and he paid the price. But it proved one thing. Our son is a good man with a soft heart who can be easily manipulated by those he feels a sense of duty towards. He couldn't say no to us then, and he can't say no to this woman now. It is the same pattern repeating itself. In this narrative, they reframe their own past wrongdoing as evidence of Sumit's inherent weakness. They are creating a legal precedent based on his personal history. The first marriage, they could argue, was a coercion of tradition. The second one is a coercion of emotion and finance. He has simply traded one prison for another. They can present the messy, painful divorce from his first wife not as his liberation, but as a trauma that left him vulnerable to a new form of predation. They could even suggest that Jenny exploited him in this vulnerable, post-divorce state. This transforms Sumit from a deceitful man who lied to his girlfriend into a tragic figure, a perennial victim who has a documented history of being trapped in marriages against his true will. This adds a layer of seeming legitimacy to their claims of undue influence. It's no longer just a theory, it's a diagnosis of a recurring condition. And who is best positioned to understand this condition? His loving parents, of course. They can claim that they are the only ones who truly see the pattern, the only ones who can recognize the signs of their son's distress, because they've seen it all before. This historical context provides the FRRO with a powerful reason to doubt the validity of Sumit's current marriage. If he has a history of being in fraudulent or coerced unions, isn't it plausible that this one is no different? Sumit's past lies, which once served as a barrier to his relationship with Jenny, are now being repurposed by his parents as the very foundation of their legal argument to have her deported. The hole he dug for himself years ago has now become the grave his parents are trying to bury his wife in. So, is there any hope? Is there a path through this legal and cultural minefield? Let's for a moment war game a potential defense. Let's assume Sumit decides to grow a spine of steel and Jenny finds the resources to fight back. What would that look like? Their first move would have to be hiring a top-tier Indian immigration and family law attorney, someone who understands the nuances of the FRRO and isn't afraid to take on a high-profile, culturally sensitive case. This lawyer's first piece of advice would be unequivocal. Get off the show, shut down all communication with production, and go completely dark. They would need to build a defensive wall of absolute privacy. The next step would be to build a counter-narrative, backed by their own mountain of evidence. While the family is using TLC footage, Jenny and Sumit's lawyer would need to gather a decade's worth of private evidence. Every text message, every email, every love letter, every photo from their private moments together. They would need to compile a timeline of their relationship that proves it was long-standing, genuine, and consensual. They could get sworn affidavits from friends, people like their friend Rohit, who officiated their wedding, and any other mutual acquaintances who could testify to the legitimacy of their love. They could present financial records showing a pooling of resources, not a one-sided dependency. The goal would be to present the FRRO with a simple choice: whose evidence is more credible? The heavily edited, drama-focused clips from a reality show, presented by estranged parents, or a decade's worth of private, intimate correspondence and testimony from the couple themselves and their trusted friends? They could also go on the offensive. A skilled lawyer might advise them to file a civil suit against Sadhna and Anil for defamation and harassment. This would be a high-risk, high-reward strategy. It would be the legal equivalent of a nuclear strike, turning the tables and putting the parents on the defensive. They would be forced to legally defend their claims, not just in the closed-door setting of an immigration office, but potentially in an open court. This could also be a powerful public relations move. Imagine the headlines: 90-Day Fiance star sues in-laws for malicious attempt to force deportation. It would allow them to seize control of the narrative, painting the parents not as concerned protectors, but as malicious actors perpetrating a cruel vendetta. But each of these strategies is fraught with peril. A top-tier lawyer is incredibly expensive. Where would that money come from, especially if they have to break their TLC contract, their primary source of income? A public relations battle could backfire, making them look like they are disrespecting their elders in the court of public opinion in India. And a lawsuit against Sumit's own parents? That would be the final, irreversible act. It would be a declaration of war from which no one could ever retreat. It would force Sumit to do the one thing he has never been able to do: completely and utterly sever himself from his family. And that brings us to the heart of the matter, the single point of failure upon which this entire tragic saga hinges: Sumit himself. This is the climax of Sumit's decade-long story arc. Every choice, every lie, every moment of hesitation has led to this. This is his final test, and all evidence suggests he is destined to fail it. We have to be honest about the man we have watched for years. We like him, we root for him, but he is not a hero. He is a man defined by his conflict avoidance, by his desperate, futile desire to please everyone and, as a result, truly satisfying no one. His entire history is one of choosing the path of least resistance. He lied about his first marriage for years because it was easier than confronting Jenny with the truth. He placated his parents with false promises for years because it was easier than facing their wrath. His default setting is not to fight, but to appease. Now he is faced with a situation that cannot be appeased. It is a binary choice. There is no middle ground. He either signs a legal document branding his parents as liars, or he allows his wife to be deported. There is no third way. He cannot smooth this over. He cannot promise his mother he'll think about it. He cannot tell Jenny he's working on it. The moment will come when a lawyer places a piece of paper in front of him, and he will have to choose. And in that moment, the weight of his entire upbringing, the deep-seated cultural imperative to honor his parents, the lifetime of fear he has of his mother's emotional power, it will all come crashing down on him. I can picture the scene so vividly. Jenny and their lawyer are on one side begging him to sign. His phone is buzzing with calls from his brother, his father, telling him not to betray his family. And Sumit will freeze. He will revert to his factory settings. He will say, "Gee, there must be another way." He will say, "You don't understand my family." He will say, "If I do this, I will lose them forever." And as he hesitates, as he agonizes, as he searches for a compromise that does not exist, he will be making his choice. His inaction will be his action. His silence will be his verdict. The great tragic irony is that Sumit genuinely loves Jenny, but his love has always been a passive force. What is required now is not passive love, but active, aggressive, brutal defense. And that is simply not in his DNA. He is a gentle soul being asked to be a warrior, and in the final battle, he will lay down his sword. The ultimate betrayal will not be a malicious act. It will be a quiet, pathetic failure to act, a final, fatal collapse under a pressure he was never built to withstand. And his failure will cost Jenny her entire world. Let us dare to look beyond that moment of failure. Let's paint the grim picture of what life after deportation would actually look like. Because this isn't just the end of a TV show, it's the detonation of two lives. For Jenny, the journey home would be a flight of unimaginable shame and sorrow. She would land back in Palm Springs, a place she left behind for a dream that has now died. She would be in her 60s, having spent her life savings, her retirement fund, on a life in a country she is now barred from. A decade of her life, gone. The social security checks she relied on in India would now have to support a life from scratch in one of the more expensive parts of America. She would be alone, surrounded by the ghosts of the life she built. The humiliation would be immense. She would be the woman from that TV show, the one who got kicked out of India, the one whose husband didn't fight for her. She would be a cautionary tale. Her happily ever after has curdled into a public tragedy. And what of Sumit? He would, in theory, get what his parents wanted. Jenny would be gone. He would be back in the fold of his family, but he would be a ghost, a hollowed-out man, living a life sentence of regret. He would be trapped, not by a loving wife, but by the suffocating guilt of his own cowardice. Every day he would wake up in a home that feels empty, in a country that feels like a prison. His parents might try to set him up with a proper wife, but he would be incapable of moving on. He would be forever haunted by the memory of the woman he loved but failed to protect. He would be a pariah among his own friends who supported his relationship with Jenny. They would see him as the man who let his mother win, the man who sacrificed his wife. His parents, in their quest to save their son, would have successfully destroyed him, leaving only an obedient, broken shell. They would have won the battle, but in the process they would have killed their son's soul. The two of them, separated by oceans and bureaucracy, would be united only by their shared, unending misery. This brings us to the legacy of Sadhna Singh. If this theory holds true, if she is indeed pursuing this course of action, then we are witnessing a fundamental evolution of the reality TV villain. She transcends the archetype of the wicked mother-in-law. She is not Mother Debbie throwing shoes or a real housewife flipping a table. Those are acts of fleeting theatrical rage. What Sadhna is allegedly doing is something far more chilling. It is cold, patient, and strategic. It is warfare by paperwork. She is a bureaucratic mastermind, a quiet suburban Machiavelli who has found a way to use the levers of state power to achieve a personal goal. She has weaponized the law, culture, and the very television show that made her famous, all in a single coordinated attack. Her brand of villainy is not loud, it is terrifyingly quiet. It is the rustle of a legal filing, the official stamp on a government form, the polite procedural dismantling of a person's life. She has potentially engineered the most savage, most creatively cruel mother-in-law move in the history of the genre, and perhaps in the history of television itself. She is not just a character in a drama, she is the author of its tragic ending. So I have to ask you, the viewers who have followed this story for years, is this the ultimate checkmate? Is this the most ruthless, calculated, and devastating power move you have ever seen on reality television? Do you believe that a family's disapproval can and should be grounds to invalidate a marriage and deport a spouse? Let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear if you think the family will succeed or if you believe Sumit will find the strength to fight back. This is an ongoing, developing situation, and the theories we've discussed today are just the beginning. To make sure you get immediate updates on Jenny's legal battle and every new twist in this incredible story, make sure you are subscribed to this channel with all notifications turned on. You will not want to miss what comes next.